The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Also breaking tonight, both the House and Senate agreeing to pass a bill for the Justice Department to release more Epstein files to the public. The bill still needs President Trump's signature to take effect. Now, he did indicate his support in a sudden about-face in recent days.
Also breaking tonight, a no-confidence vote targeting UNL's Chancellor Rodney Bennett. It passed overwhelmingly in the Faculty Senate. Now, the vote is largely symbolic. It has no direct bearing on Bennett's employment, but it signifies a profound split between the faculty and its leadership as the campus prepares to cut $27.5 million from its budget.
We're going to go ahead and go into Commissioner's exec session here in a couple minutes so we can do something productive while the lights are out. So that's what we're doing.
The Douglas County Board of Commissioners held its meeting in the dark today after an excavator hit an underground power line, taking out power in parts of downtown, including City Hall.
Good thing cell phones have flashlights. Well, it could soon cost more to keep the lights on at homes and businesses. OPPD's Board of Directors anticipate a 5 to 9% increase in electricity prices each year through the end of the decade. The rate increase would take effect on New Year's Day if the board votes to approve it at next month's meeting.
And for the first time, Mecca, the organization that runs the CHI Health Center, Charles Schwab Field, and the Riverfront Parks, has a new president and CEO. Mecca's board of directors voted Adam Straight in today. He replaces Roger Dixon, who will retire after 25 years leading Mecca.
A federal court judge blocked Texas from using its redrawn congressional map in the 2026 midterms. The map was engineered to give Republicans 5 additional seats in the House. Those maps touched off a nationwide redistricting storm from California to North Carolina.
We are in first.